guys. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, if it is that way for you. We are going to be starting this episode in a few moments and going across all the socials. Hope you guys are having a tremendous start to the week. We're setting up for another episode of the podcast, and we are going to be kicking on very, very shortly. So if you're coming into this one live, guys, you know the drill. Get down into the comments. Let us know that you are here, that you're ready to rock and roll, and then you're part of it. And we're going to start this episode up in 2 minutes. So just checking the connection here is coming through okay. Hopefully we can see it. I'm going to just do a little bit of a check, making sure that it's actually connecting for you guys okay. Let's just get a quick gaze at this. If you're coming in, guys, live, make sure you let us know. I just want to check that, yeah, we are all live. Internet connection seems to be okay, but just want to make sure. So get on down in the comments, guys. Let us know that you're here, that you're part of it, that you're ready to rock and roll, you're ready to get the value, and I'm here to deliver team. So what's happening? How's your week been, guys? Let us know down there in the comments what's going on. We are streaming across all the platforms. So going live on our Facebook groups, on YouTube, everywhere you want to be. We're coming into this one big time. So just starting the streams up in all the Facebook groups, guys. So we're going to start this one in 1.5 minutes and kicking in with a big live session here. So it's incredible how Facebook's just made it so difficult to actually do live streaming now for some reason. I don't know why, but if you're coming into this one, guys, get down there live and let us know that you're here. So we're going to be kickstarting this one, as I said, in just over a minute. Now, this is a slightly different time. If you're wondering why we are live at 7 a.m. Sydney time, it's because we are going through this kind of weird period where Canada's moving, the UK is moving, Australia is moving, the US is moving in terms of time zones, and it will change again in a couple of weeks. And it's only because we anchor it on a normal Australian time zone. So when the rest of everywhere else moves, that's the reason why. But if you're inside a Better Body Academy and you go to the top of the group, you'll be able to see all the times here. So let me say hello to a few crew, and then we're going to rip into this one. Good morning, Nicky boy. I hope you've had a beautiful start to the morning, my brother. Hello, Ash. Look at all the girls streaming into this one. So good. Ash, good morning, buddy. How are you? Hello, Xanth. Good morning, Kylie Whitelam. What is going on, girlfriend? Hey, Cara. Hey, Jackie. What's going on, girls? I hope you're well. Guys, 30 seconds to the start point. So, like I said, if you're coming into this one live, guys, please let us know. It's always good to get a bit of an idea of who's coming in and watching these ones. So, this is going to be a big topic. We're going to be talking about getting in shape, the best shape that you can possibly be in by Christmas, and just giving you some practical steps on actually being able to follow a plan. So, I think it's going to be pretty helpful for you guys. And if only our more experienced guys, a little bit of a recap. Good evening, Katie. I hope you're good. Hey, Jade, lovely to see your beautiful face in here. And Mrs. Consistent, Renee, how are you, girlfriend? Lovely to have your company. All right, guys, I think we are about ready to rip in. So I'm going to bring in our crowd on Instagram, and then we're going to count it in on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. My name's Jace from Better Body Academy. I'm coming to you live at what is 10 p.m. local time here in Mallorca in Spain. We're having a little bit of a family trip, which is really nice. So I want to rip straight into this one. How do you guys feel about the year so far? Okay, I think as we're about 75% through the year. If you're watching this one live, I'd actually really like to know, how do you feel about your year so far? Has it been successful? Or are you feeling like I'm kind of like getting to that period of time again where I'm just frustrated, like things haven't worked out for me. I'm not where I want to be. Maybe you haven't lost the weight that you wanted to lose. Maybe you're feeling a little bit frustrated about the way it's going. Let us know in the comments if you are indeed watching this one live. We've got a few people saying, yeah, very, very successful. That's good news. I love hearing that. And the reason I'm asking this question is I don't want this to be another year where you just get to the end of it and think, oh, fuck, I just can't wait for 2025 to start. You know what? Like, there's still 3 months to salvage the year, to avoid that feeling of failure, to feel a sense of pride that you finish strong. But most importantly, and I think this is the thing that most people struggle with, it is to get some momentum coming into the new year. I think momentum is absolutely everything. I mean, for me, I'm going to be on the road for about 25, 26 days. And what that means is that I'm away from my normal kitchen. I'm away from my normal gym that I go to, that I know everything. The key for me is to never stop. You know what? It's totally cool to slow down the pace, especially when you go on holidays. Like, you want to recover, you want to enjoy your time. But I can tell you something straight up. You're going to make it infinitely harder to restart if you come to a dead stop. And, you know, one of my big things is I always want to be honest with people that follow me. I had a pretty boozy last week, probably the booziest week that I've had in, I don't know, 5 to 10 years maybe. Drank probably a carton of beer in 4 days, which by a lot of standards isn't that much. But I still got my gym sessions in. I didn't completely obliterate the buffet. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to come to a stop and then have to be sitting there like a broken down car on the side of the road trying to get myself started. Now, if you're in Australia, there's good news coming, isn't there? Like, summer's coming. It's starting to warm up. But if you're in the UK and you're listening to this, and I'm thinking of my girls and my guys over there in the retreat in the UK, and we were talking, what we know is that things are going to get real hard. It's going to get cold. It's going to get shitty. It's going to start raining. And if you haven't created momentum into this back end of the year, it's going to get harder and harder and harder. And you're going to go through that seasonal putting the weight on, getting the weight off again, putting the weight on, and kind of like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, right? So what I want to give you here is 4 practical, simple steps. How did I put these simple steps together? Well, I'm thinking of this from a perspective of, what can I do to help you get the best bang for your buck, number one, the easiest implementation. So you're going to be busy, right, over this next 3 months. And what's going to cause the least amount of overwhelm? The truth is, this time of the year is when family, work, career gets like crazy busy. This list, I am going to guarantee you, for the people that follow this, it's going to have you feeling and looking better in the shortest possible time. It's also going to help you balance off building some muscle mass, but then also losing some fat. So you may see a drop in the scales, you may not see a drop in the scales, but it doesn't matter. You're going to look and feel so much better by the end of the year if you implement on these 4 things. So in no particular order, here is number 1. It is to start lifting weights 3 times a week on a full body plan. I'm going to be very, very clear and concise in this. If you are not lifting weights, I want you to stop and understand that you're making things very fucking hard on yourself. Here's what lifting weights is not. It is not CrossFit. It is not Pilates. It is not circuit training. It is not classes with weights in your hands. It is not jumping around in your living room. and it is certainly not spin. All of these things are cardio with weights. That is not to say that they are bad, but if you want to look and feel the best that you can possibly look by the end of this year, and you're doing circuit training or jumping around in your living room or doing spin, you are doing the wrong thing. The type of training that I am talking about here is lifting with good form. I'm talking about lifting in the 8 to 12 repetition range, as heavy as you can possibly do, pushing towards failure, and having a 1 to 3 minute rest between sets to recover so that you can push heavy again. You should not be constantly out of breath during your workouts. If you're out of breath during your workouts, it's working more endurance than it is strength and trying to build some muscle and burn some fat. Do you see the difference? If you're experienced, I think that, look, if you're inexperienced, I think that 2 days a week is great. It's absolutely brilliant. If you're experienced, I want you to hear this. One of the things that you guys do is you get overexcited about like crazy amounts of training. I want you to cap it at 3 days a week. I saw a post by one of our OG guys, Kev Grant. I don't know if he's listening to this podcast or not. He's probably well in bed by now. But he's like, I'm starting 75 hard. I don't think, personally, now is the time to start 75 hard. I think it's about the very worst thing you can do. You're coming into the busiest time of year, and doing 75 hard is great for the mindset. It's not amazing necessarily for the body because you're effectively overtraining. I want you to focus on going as heavy as possible on the reps that we've prescribed in your program and then put rest days in between. My suggestion would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday would be perfect as a split, allowing you a day in between and the weekends to recover. I'm not saying you sit on your ass in between. I'm saying you lift heavy and then have a day off. You lift heavy and then have a day off. This is perfect for generating new muscle and then also burning fat. You should be sticking to the program that we have made you. And if you feel like you've kind of got away from a program or you need a new program, just ask. But I want to point something out. If you're not sticking to your program, you're effectively saying that you know better than someone that's been doing this for 30 years, personally. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. Does this make sense? How many of you are following a dedicated plan? How many of you are pushing heavy towards failure with good form and having rest in between? If you're doing that, that's the type of training I'm talking about. So number 2, here it comes. I want you to reduce your heavily processed food down to 10%. This is probably going to be the thing that's going to give you the biggest bang for buck. You've heard me talk about this endlessly, but I just want to give a little bit more detail to this. The engineering that goes into the creation of processed products is incredible, right? We think it's convenient, and it is. But let me ask you, do you think it's addictive? Do you think things like pizza and salami and alcohol, for that matter, do you think they're addictive? Why is it that we get addicted to cakes, croissants, and pizza, but we don't get addicted to apples, fish, and chicken? What do you think about that? Yeah, of course, it's the sugar and the fat, but a manufacturer has made the food to make it addictive, so you buy more of it. The problem with these types of foods is they are just so high in calories. We're talking the average pizza is going to be 1,500 to 2,000 calories. That's your entire day's calories in a fat loss phase done in one meal. So if you're doing this more than every now and then, you're going to really struggle. Mother Nature cannot construct such a thing. It's effectively a Frankenstein The problem is we've become so used to it that we don't see how crazy it is. People get super duper stressed about tracking calories. You know the simplest piece of advice that I've got for you to lose the weight and get in incredible shape is reduce the overwhelm. For the next 3 months, don't even track your calories. Just refuse to eat packet foods. It is basically impossible to overeat whole foods. If you're cooking without tons of oil or you're not adding a bunch of sauce, you can have such huge portions, it's crazy. You will never be hungry. When I'm taking photos of my food and I'm putting them out there on socials or inside of our client Facebook group, you see these fucking huge meals, right? And you think, whoa, how can you eat that much? It's because it's all whole food. People want the hacks, but this is the ultimate hack. Rather than tracking all your food and getting stressed out over the next 3 months when you're trying to do Christmas shopping and you're trying to plan your holidays or work scaling up, I encourage you for a month, a single month, to limit your packaged processed foods down to 10%. You will never be so full in your life and you'll be losing fat. Your body will completely change. Does this make sense? Let us know if this makes sense, guys. Number 3. Again, sometimes sounding a little bit like a broken record, but the reality is we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. You must hit your protein target every day. Not every now and then. Not on a good day. Let me ask you a question. How many of you, let me know in the comments, how many of you are hitting your protein target? And I'm going to look in the comments to see if I can see any. How many of you are hitting your protein target every single day? Who's doing that? And the chances are it's going to be literally no one. A good gauge of what your protein target should be is if you measure in kilos, you want to be about 2 grams for every kilo of body weight at your ideal weight. If you measure in pounds, you want to be about double that. So most of us should be shooting for around 150, if you're a woman, to 200 grams of protein a day. Are you hitting this every day? And the short answer is 99% of people that listen to this podcast are not. And this is why their body doesn't look good and they're always hungry. Lots of guys will say this. Now, if you're a man and you listen to this podcast, I want you to ask yourself, is this your gut response? Oh yeah, I'm definitely eating enough protein. I love meat. And then I challenge them to show me their tracking. They don't have it, of course. And so I ask them, talk me through a regular day. And what they say is, well, I have a protein shake and I have a huge chunk of meat at dinner. That's 100 grams of protein. You get about 25 to 30 grams of protein from a steak. And if you had from a protein shake, and if you had a 400 gram piece of meat at dinner, you'd get about 70 grams. So the total that you're getting is actually 100, not 200. It's extremely difficult to hit your protein target if you just don't accidentally do it. Now, let's look at the other gender, to you beautiful ladies out there. If I ask a woman if she's hitting 130 to 150 grams of protein a day, she'll say, oh yeah, Jace, I don't need to do that because I don't want to get bulky. I just want to be lean. Do you know that it's actually more important to be hitting your protein target when you're in a calorie deficit than when you're having an abundance of calories? This is because when you're in a calorie deficit, what's going to happen is you're running out of calories. You're running out of petrol. That's why you're burning tissue. But so many of you guys will lose the first 5 to 10 pounds and then just get into one of these plateaus. And the reason is that you're getting into a plateau is because you're breaking down muscle because you're running out of petrol and because your protein intake's not high enough and you're not training the right way in the gym, you're actually breaking down muscle. Now, what that does is have a direct impact on your metabolism. So if you're one of these ladies that's constantly saying, oh, I don't want to be bulky and all that type of stuff, you're the person that actually I'm targeting with this comment. You need to be hitting your protein target. Do you know it's actually more important to be hitting your protein target when you're 50 and 60 than when it is when you're 20? That's different to what we've heard, isn't it? Why? Well, just like our tires on our car start to wear down the tread, your digestive system gets worse and worse and worse as you get older about getting the protein that you're feeding it out. So you might be, let's say you're hitting 200 grams of protein a day as a 20-year-old man, you might need to be upwards of 230, 250 grams of protein a day as a 60-year-old man, because of the fact that your digestive system's just not as good as it used to be at pulling the protein out. You need to have the mindset, team, that I will never miss my protein target. It is so important. And if you do, if you have that mindset, you'll literally start seeing your body changing before your eyes. I'll never forget when I had a conversation with a lad named Roger, one of my older clients. He was 65 odd. And the only change that we made was we doubled his protein intake, and he come back to me a month later and he said verbatim, Jace, I'm harder. I don't know how to explain it. I'm weighing less on the scales, but I'm harder. This is because you're in a calorie deficit, you're losing body mass, but you're breaking down muscle. You do not want that. That's going to lead you to be in a plateau, and you're going to have further weight problems the moment you start eating normally again. This protein target becomes more and more and more important the more years of coaching that I go through. If we can just get you hitting your protein target through whole natural foods, you know what? That's 90% of your weight loss. So let's go to the number 4, and this is the final one. You must hit 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. Quite often what happens is we have these, and it happened 2 or 3 times last week on our coaching calls, very long-winded conversations with clients around, what are you struggling with, and why is this not happening? And like, oh, I'm doing this, Jason, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and it's not working, I can't figure it out. And then I ask them about their sleep. And they tell me that they're sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night. Or they're a bad sleeper. It's, 8 hours of completely broken sleep. Look, I'm not saying it's easy, but this is the thing that most people think is the least important. The truth is, sleep debt works like credit card debt. And boy, the fuck do I know it. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been burning the candle pretty hard, and what ends up happening is you eventually hit the wall and have to pay it back. But the problem is all the damage that you do in between. Making bad choices because your willpower is down. People don't recognize just how much undersleeping impacts their life, yet they'll get behind a wheel driving and they'll go, oh, holy shit, like I'm completely impaired. But that's how many of us actually spend our entire life. Our ability to make good decisions is ruined, and the chances of you training and eating right when you're so tired and full of cravings, 0 chance. So if you're really struggling as a whole to kind of get motivated, to kind of just do the shit that the plan lays out in front of you, if you look at the plan and it seems simple enough, but you can't get yourself to execute, I want you to ask yourself, like, what is your sleep like? If there's disruption to the mindset, your willpower is low, you make bad decisions. And that's before we talk about the absolute fuckery to your hormones. Your chance of building muscle and holding your fat at bay, no chance. So what are the tips? What do you actually do? You got to stop wasting time, inverted commas, vegging out. I asked Chris Lupton overnight, last coaching call, to put together a post on how he has lost 57 kilos in 10 months. That's 120 pounds in 10 months. How does a person do that? Well, top of his list, and the clearest one to me, is that he says, I've become a morning person. I go to bed and I sleep, and then I wake up early the next day to extend my productive time. And I'll be honest, I feel like a little bit of a hypocrite saying this point, because I often cut it too fine because I love what I get to do. I love what I get to do. I love coaching. But I justify it by saying I don't have a weight problem. If you've got a weight problem and you just can't work out what's going on, I want you to think about your sleep. I'm just going to say this point straight up. I don't spend any time watching Netflix, watching the news, watching TV. I'm literally either working with my family or I'm in bed. I dedicate no time to wasting shit when I should be trying to recover and prioritize my sleep. And when you do this, I guarantee you your entire life will change and fat loss will become so much more automatic because of the fact that you feel normal, you feel human. Now, in these 4 strategies, guys, there's nothing here that I haven't said before. But the question is, if it's predictable that you're going to get to the end of the year and you're going to feel a certain way, either super proud of what you've achieved or another year that's gone by that you didn't quite do what you wanted to, I just want you to think, well, this is predictable, but we've still got 3 months of the year left. I could give you all the strategies in the world, but I've just given you the 4 which are going to move the needle the most. Honestly, it's going to move the needle the most. If you just do these 4 things, lift in a gym 3 times a week on a full body training program, cut out the packaging, hit your protein target, and get some sleep. If you do this, you will have all this bandwidth free to spend with your kids, your partner, your work, and prepping from the busiest part of the season, and your fat loss will be automatic. You will start to build muscle again. This will give you incredible results and momentum going into next year to make sure that you never go back to the old you. But if you ignore this advice, you can go and do all these kind of exercises that you see on TikTok. You can get on a spin bike and fucking spin to win all you like. I'm just telling you as honestly as I can, it's not going to work. Narrow your focus onto these 4 things. I would suggest if you're a terrible sleeper, make that the priority starting this week. Make that the priority first and let the others fall in place after that. Guys, hopefully this has been helpful. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, coming to you with another episode. I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, team, happy to hang around and kind of answer any questions if anyone has them at all. I'm going to go to a couple of questions that have come through from Instagram. What's your opinion on rice and grains, from Mariana? Rice and grains, look, I would still consider them a whole food because I don't put them into the same category as hyper-processed foods. They are processed still, but you want to be going as much as possible with the least processed version. Something that's worth noting is that the difference in calories between white rice and brown rice is pretty much nothing, right? So from a calorie perspective, it doesn't really matter. I think the biggest thing that you've got to watch when it comes to in what you've put here, rice and grains and bread, you need to be watching the portion control, because these foods don't often fill you up that much. I think when a person thinks about an amount of rice, right, they're kind of like spoonfuls of rice on their plate. But actually, when you're thinking about a portion of rice as an example, you want to be thinking one of those like Sunbeam microwave cups. I think it's about 125 grams from memory. This isn't a huge amount of rice. So you from a calorie perspective, you've got to control your portion size. That's probably the biggest point then. Can you please give an example for women, but without protein, of what food would help you to hit your protein target in a day? Sorry, without protein powder. Okay. The way that I would probably go about doing this is having firstly, a point to raise here is that if you're like, why are you avoiding protein powder? Protein powder is a really good supplement. The fact that you can get in a hell of a lot of protein for a low amount of calories makes it fantastic. If you want to do it without protein powder, it's entirely possible. You just need to be probably tracking. But what that would look like would be something like, I would suggest having probably 3 eggs at breakfast with a couple of pieces of toast. I would be going with something like a protein bar mid-morning. I would be having some sort of a chicken wrap or a chicken salad type sandwich without a bunch of mayonnaise. I'd be having it with something like seeded mustard at lunch. But when I say a chicken salad sandwich, I'm not talking about 100 grams of chicken. I'm talking like 250 grams of chicken or beef. This is what you want to be looking for. It's just, you're not going to get much protein out of 100 grams of chicken. You're going to get 20 grams of protein. And then at nighttime, what you want to be doing is on your dinners, you want to be having like a decent protein serve, and it needs to be cooked the right way to make sure you're not adding a bunch of calories. And even what I've given you here, you're talking there about 100 and maybe 110 grams of protein. This is where having a protein supplement can do exactly what it sounds like. Supplement to get you to your protein target. When you're eating a large amount of calories because you've lost the weight or because you're doing a reverse diet, you can afford to have more calories in your system. But when you're on a cut, when you're trying to lose fat, protein powder, in my opinion, is almost like borderline essential. Gareth says cauliflower rice as an alternative. This is a really good alternative, Gareth. When you're talking about, trying to lose fat, not everything needs to be low calorie. It is important that you understand not everything needs to be low calorie. But I think a really good way to think about this generally is to look at the things that you consume in your daily diet and you think, how can I make a better swap to that? So as an example, if you're putting lots of olive oil, instead turn to a spray oil. If you're drinking a lot of beers, you don't necessarily need to give up beers, but you could switch to a low calorie beer, which will cut out half the calories on it. Let's say that you're having oats in the morning. Well, oats are great, but the problem is there's not a lot of protein going in with that. So what I would do is take my oats and add a scoop of protein to it. So the strategy here is that we look at what we're doing and we make swaps and substitutions or additions as opposed to just like cutting everything out. I think what a lot of coaches do is they just get you to cut everything out, and then you're kind of like, this is fucking boring. I'm not going to do this. The moment this program finishes, I'm just going to go back to what I'm doing before. And therefore, it doesn't work. And that's why people go through these periods of weight on, weight off, weight on, weight off. Does this make sense, guys? If there's any other questions, please rip them into the comments, and I'm happy to answer anything and everything. Protein is my main focus, Kylie says. Yes, and it definitely should be. It absolutely should be. What about from Instagram? You guys got any other questions? Gareth says, liquid egg whites are brilliant for protein. Look, I totally agree. Gareth, I think they're bloody fantastic, mate. It's a simple way to inject 50 grams of protein in at breakfast, giving you so much room to move for the rest of the day. It's like incredible. So I totally agree with that point. I needed these reminders, Eden said. Good stuff, Eden. I hope it helped. Morning, Maddie and Chris as well. But guys, I didn't message you before. All right, guys. Well, look, I think we're going to leave it there. If you have any questions and you're not in Better Body Academy and you want to inquire about what we do, then shoot us a DM and we can chat more about that. But otherwise, guys, hopefully there's some benefit in today's episode. I'll see you in the next one.